Yeah, when in principle you challenge the ethicality of a couple of religious pharmacy opening dickheads who need to make way for the chemist warehouse, for whatever's become of Sol Patterson's, for Priceline Pharmacy, for Devlin's Pharmacy, for the Northbourne Chemist, and for every other, for Amcal and every other pharmacy chain that's not a capital chemist. As soon as you are contesting them on their ethical grounds, moral grounds, they immediately fall back onto, and this is why it's stupid to say that one sense of morals or ethics extend outwards from a theological story narrative. Essentially, in ethical philosophy, what you read about is why a certain moral statement is applicable to more scenarios than it isn't, or you don't really hear a lot of or read a lot about absolutism in the context either of moral relativist books or moral objectivist oriented books. But when they offer you a theological narrative and story as where their ethics come from, it would be like saying, or Mr. I learned, be nice to people because Mr. Squiggle said so. And then as soon as I say, well, it's not always appropriate to just be nice to people, because what if people are trying to steal your equity and rip you off and steal your health rights and things like that? It's not always appropriate to be nice to them then. And then they immediately go, well, then you must be responsible for all of the graffiti in Canberra, because Mr. Squiggle has a pencil attached in place of his nose, so he can write everywhere. Um, that's sort of how they flip and go, because their religious ethics stem from a religious narrative. So if meanwhile they have no rebuttal or no patience or capacity to sit through and talk or have a discussion about ethics, meta ethics, ethical philosophy, um, they flip back and go, well, you've done something wrong. And they'll be thinking in terms of the paradigm offered to them by their religious narrative. Whether you're talking about the protagonist or the antagonistic roles within those religious narratives, whatever it is, that's what they'll be falling back to. And that's why I think that's part of the stupidity in people that I think gets produced by even thinking that it was fair or not disrespectful to people's childhoods to go against the exercises in discernment that they're given, that young people are given when they're challenged to think through nursery rhymes or childhood stories and think about what's what and what's right and what's wrong. At least they're getting taught to think that. Once a god is pronouncing judgments and a god is said to have all knowledge, all power, and all love, then there's an immediate wedge driven there potentially into someone knowing what's in your best interest, even though you don't, having all knowledge, even though you can't, and having all power, even though you never will. And yeah, in general, it's an affront to the fair go we all agreed young people should be given before they have to enter into the adult arena. There, that's my answer.